Remember that one? One of my all-time favorites there. Kid by the Pretenders from 1980 on their first album. Taking you way back there. Damn. Okay. So many things that make this great. First of all, hi guys. It's Uncle Larry. The guy from the Homeskoolin show. The video thing on YouTube. With my favorite Lane Motor Museum cup again. So good to be home. I was just thinking, I just went basically a whole month where I didn't cook anything for myself because I was on the road. It's a lot of faith you have in people out there, those hotel cooks, They usually do a better job than I do though. But anyway, I got my analog Mike shirt on. Mike, honey, we got to get with the program. Can you tell by the way this fits who made it? Mike, come on, man. I'll kick in for the next round, okay? Analog Mike came out to a show when I was on the road. I can't remember what city it was in, someplace, somewhere, but we hung out all night. He brought his buddy. I can't remember his name, but he was a sweet guy. We hung out after the show with all the band fellas and chatted up about music and all these other things, and he's a good guy. Analog Mike knows the prog. Well, okay, he knows Genesis, and that's really all I care about. Genesis and Yes and Tall. That's all I care about. Everyone thinks I'm a prog freak, but it's just those three bands, really. We were quoting very obscure Genesis lyrics. As a matter of fact, I challenge any of you out there to put together a Genesis quiz for me. I will answer it live on the air. You can get as deep into the weirdo, obscure album lyrics as you want. You give me the first couple words and I'll give you the end of the line kind of thing, That's how confident I am in my Genesis homework that I've done. But anyway, back to the Pretenders. Thanks for the kind words about yesterday's video. You guys are very sweet. We'll get into some VCB stuff in a minute. I've got my old Strat out, and I've also got, here, let me move the phone so I can show you. I've also got a pedal here. You guys remember these? 1974 or 75-ish MXR Dynacomp Bud Box. The originals. Anybody who's ever had an old MXR pedal knows that when you take it apart, try to put the battery in. See, foam is only good for about 25 years before it turns into glue, like the inside of old keyboard cases. You'll always see, if they've been sitting out in somebody's garage for too long, you open the case and all the foam is turned to glue and it's all stuck to the sides of the keyboard. Same thing with these old MXR pedals, you literally, it's like liquid when it comes out, and you got to get all that out of there and you got to clean it. And then you take something to stop the battery, the back of the back plate from touching the components. You got to put some rubber in there or something, to stop it. These are just little Uncle Larry tips. But great pedals. Still to this day, my favorite compressor, the MXR Dynacomp, the originals. I sometimes will take one of those and plug right into the console with it, and get funky, Jerry Reed style or something. And I love them to pieces, man. They're great pedals. I like all that old MXR shit, to be honest. I like the Phase 90. I like that pedal. I like the Phase 100. They made a nice chorus pedal. Remember these? I got one right here. These are good. Remember these? Great pedal. All this shit's a little noisy and everything, but it sure sounds good. And it's like the good kind of noise, the hiss, not bad noise, which is, ground hum, you don't want that. You want the hiss. So, James Honeyman Scott, right? By all accounts, one of my favorite players, but by all accounts, he liked to have a few beers when he was playing too, Like somebody else I know. I think that's what ended up taking him out. This band had a pretty tragic history if you go down and look at some of the, things that happened to these poor fellas. And Chrissy Hines from Akron, which is where I grew up, and little Danny Auerbach's from, sweet little Danny. But what's cool about this song, you know, Kid, you know, like, it's like, okay, these guys were cutting edge in the sense that they still use some of the, like, the old elements of, you know, traditional rock and roll. Like, they got the jangle, right? The acoustics, which is, you know, Everly Brothers kind of thing. It's got that. But then, you know, like on the pre-choruses, he comes in with a little bit of real 80s. You know, he comes in with the add 9 chords and major 7s that sort of say, hey, I'm the 80s. I'm not just doing like a retro record, you know. And I think that's what hooked people. You know, it was a cool combination of, you know, sort of vintage with the twist of modern, you know, for the time, I'm saying, you know. Not to mention her compelling lyrics and her extremely wide vibrato that you could drive a truck through. That really caught people too. And she's quite a looker, you know, you'd say. And you know, the lyrics of the song, you know, I always wondered if she was talking to a real kid or like a dude that she was calling a kid, you know. I mean, somebody help me out there, I'm not sure. But just a great track with a great bridge and a great solo that we should probably look at, which is why I busted out the Dynacomp, because it is, you know, it's very compressed. And I'll show you that in a minute. See, now this song, you know, is pretty straightforward. C, A minor, F, G7. You know, 1645. 1, 6 minor, 4, 5. For all of those, you know, trying to figure out the Nashville number system, you know. And then the chorus, the pre-chorus goes to, I guess it's a chorus, really. 1 major 7, 6 add 9, D minor, which is the 2 minor, and then a 5 dominant 7, which resolves to a 5 major, okay? And then this bridge bit comes along, you know, it's, okay, now what's cool about that, the bridge, you know, James is or somebody again is going like this through the whole thing, giving you tension, right? Which is great tension thing. You know, Larry uses that all the time in the studio. That's tension 101, is you just take a note and just tremolo pick it, right? And then he sets up the, you know, the solo by going, you know, which is a nice little overdub, sort of leading you somewhere. 4 or 5, and your ear is dying to go, you know, to a new key, or to back to the 1 chord. But they surprise you by going to a modulated E major chord. Let's listen to that, okay? This is what's cool, right? Now we're in E, right? I mean, pretty cool songwriting, okay? You know, the kind of stuff that people don't think of these days, but there it was. Your ear is dying to go to this C chord again, but they're like, fuck it, we're going to E, right? And then on top of that, he delivers one of the coolest solos ever recorded. So, you know, I mean, it's simple, but it's great. So over the E, he goes. All right, so that's. So a couple cool things happening there. He goes, which is kind of implying a major 7. Doing this, we're really hammering on that minor 9. over that C sharp chord, which is a very cool tension. And then he starts going, 2-4-0 on the top 3 strings. This is happening over an F sharp chord and a B chord. So over the F sharp chord, it creates a F minor 7-13, F sharp minor 7-13, which is really cool, right? And then that tension right there creates a B7 sus, which is just cool, it's like tricky enough where it's like really out, but it's also very in, So it's like, and a sweet little over the E chord, just a nice little sus bend. Pretty simple. Which is just great, man. I mean, it's jangly, it's cool, it's rock and roll, James Honeyman Scott was a badass. I had a chance to buy his Les Paul Custom many years ago, and I should have bought it, but I didn't. Dumbass move. When he used on a lot of that stuff. Now let's go to the YouTube channel. I want to make answer a few of these VCB things from yesterday. Let's get into some of this. I'm going to shut this compressor off.
Here's what we'll do. Let's just go. That was just...
Okay, so we've got some stuff here that we need to address. One guy, this guy posted something that made me laugh. Sweet, sweet guy, and I'm sure he means absolutely nothing by this, but I just thought it was funny to me. Like, he's a guy named Alan. He said, Uncle Larry, can you tell us homeschoolers what to listen for to tell if a pedal is sounding amp-like? You know how I always say that I don't like pedals that sound like pedals? I like pedals that sound like amps, right? Okay, tell you what to listen for. Okay, well, if it sounds like an amp, if a pedal sounds like an amp, then it's amp-like. If it sounds like a pedal, it's pedal-like. I'm afraid that we're drifting too far here from people that even knowing what amps are supposed to sound like, okay? This is what's concerning me about this. And I know this guy's a sweetheart, and he means nothing by it. And I made a smart-ass comment back to him, but I just feel like this is dangerous area here. Like, tell me what to listen for. Like, do we not remember what amps sound like? Okay, what I noticed about pedals that sound like pedals, which is about 99% of all distortion pedals that I hear, there's something wrong with what they do, and it just doesn't sound like an amp turned up. They either squish everything too much, or they give you that weird, foggy, I'm a pedal sound. Like, that's what happens to most of them, right? And anyone that doesn't do that is a very rare and welcomed thing in my mind, but you don't find those very often. There's only a few that I could think of that do that, which is one of the main reasons I always loved the no balls, the original no balls. It's, as you well know, I've said many times, it doesn't sound like a pedal. Okay, let's move on. So anyway, all I'm saying there is, like, come on, guys. Let's not get too into all this new weird direct input gear so that we don't forget what the real shit's supposed to sound like. Come on now. Because this is all a phase that we're going through with all this modeling stuff. We're going to look back on all this shit the way people look back on stonewashed jeans one of these days. I promise you. Amps are never going to go out of style because that's a fact. And they may be a little out of style right now, tube amps, but you watch. You just watch. Okay, so let's see. One guy said, I was thinking about that Epiphone Casino with the crappy trim. Even though it would spoil the originalness of the guitar, wouldn't it be best to modify it if it plays so well? I doubt you or any of your followers are advocates of guitars not being played. Yes, for sure. Now, this is dangerous territory as well. Okay. I recently I recently almost purchased a Les Paul Jr. from a fella, and the guitar was amazing, and it was really, really, really good, and I loved the way it played, sounded, and everything. But I noticed just the way the guitar was built. I mean, the strings. I don't mind the strings being a little bit off the pole pieces, but it was so far off. Like it was like a 1/4 inch off on every string, right? And I was like, man, this is crazy. I mean, they built it this way. I mean, it was nothing wrong with the guitar. It's just kind of how it came out. You know, the Les Paul Jr. was hardly the, top of the line model for Gibson. And I'm sure they let some of their new employees goof with those, and start them on the old junior line, But then I was like, I love the guitar and I really wanted to buy it. But then I was thinking, man, if it was up to me, I would just go in there and route that guitar a little bit, move that pickup over where it's supposed to be. And I called a couple friends of mine that deal vintage guitars, and I said, would it really devalue the guitar to fix that? And they're like, dude, do not do that. Do not move that pickup. And it's like, yeah, but it's wrong, it's not right. And they're like, I know, but as soon as you do that, you cut $5,000 off the price of the guitar. So it's silly, yes. But you got to be careful. I mean, you cannot do some irreversible mod to these guitars. It'd be like drawing a mustache on the old Mona Lisa or something. I know it's silly, guys. And that's one of the reasons I love choppers. And, I like to mess around with some new guitars because you could do anything you want to them and it doesn't matter. But, yeah, I could have changed the tremolo on that. It was actually not a tremolo. You guys realize that it was wrong for Leo Fender to call it a tremolo because it's not tremolo. It's actually a vibrato. But, then you devalue the guitar. So who's going to take the hit, right? I don't want to take the hit. I paid full pop for it. So, yeah, I can go make it right. But then I just lost $5,000, So there's that. You got to be careful with all that. You should, and then another thing that really bugs me is when people say, oh, man, I don't mind modifying an old guitar. I'm never going to sell it. Yeah, but you're going to die. And then that guitar is permanently modified. And somebody else has to deal with the fact that you modified it, okay? You're definitely going to die at some point. Don't forget that. All right, so what else here? A lot of people said nice things about the Dave Gilmour thing that I put up, that's a great solo, yeah. And, and there's a lot of people talking about the tuning. Yes, it is totally out of tune on the record. There's a fact, very sharp in places, flat and so. But none of that matters because it just sounds great. I mean, everything today is so perfectly tuned and tempo, quantized that we've gotten used to hearing and then, all these years of being a studio guy, my ear has gotten to the point where it's just like, if something's even remotely out of tune, I notice it immediately. But I don't mind it because I just love the fact that it's real, and more importantly, it's a great solo and it's got tons of heart and emotion and it fits the song and it's a great song on a great record that puts you in a great mood when you listen to it. This is what matters. It doesn't matter that it's out of tune. It matters that it's awesome. Tons of classic shit that we all grew up on is totally out of tune and it sounds amazing. I need to remind myself a lot in the studio to not worry so much about tuning because I'm just so used to getting beat up by producers and engineers. They're just constantly on your ass. Dude, I don't know, man, a little out of tune there. It's like, yeah, okay, but does it sound cool? Is it cool? Is it a good performance, Oh, man, there's a fine line there, kids. Fine line. And I do think that one of the reasons those records work is because there isn't just one thing out of tune. It's everything is out of tune. Like we've talked about, they tune to the piano. It's very wide. Everybody's a little out of tune, so it creates this great... See, if you got 5 guys dead in tune and one thing's out, it sounds terrible. But if everything's a little wide, then it's great. That's how those records were. That's why they worked. Okay. What else can we get into? Let's see. One guy's made a joke out of what I said about don't feel bad. You ended up with a burst after selling all that stuff. Yeah, that is a fact. you got to make sacrifices in life. Yes, I would love to have some of those guitars back, but you know what? It was fun having them, right? One guy said, this is weird. Sorry, I refuse to use Apple products. They spy and tell on you. You do you. First of all, you do you is one of my least favorite millennial text speak things that's out there. God, I hate when people say you do you. Oh, God, I hate that. And yeah, you know, he wouldn't even been watching that video if it wasn't for an Apple product. So I don't get that. Let's see. Very awesome, Tom. It would be amazing if you could talk one day about musical memory and ear training, how it all came to you, and if you have any insights. I don't know. I just listened to a million records. I told you guys, when I was a kid, I knew when something wasn't right. Like I heard the bands in my mom's bar and I could tell they were playing wrong chords. I just knew it. But I couldn't walk up to them and fix it. I couldn't say, well, that's the wrong chord. You know, I didn't know how to tell them, but I knew it wasn't right. I've always had an ear. Like I can tell when, you know, something's out of the pocket or out of tune, just the tiniest bit, you know. And, you know, like if there's like a bunch of people playing and there's some sort of wrong note in the midst of all that, I always know who it is that played it, that kind of thing, where it's coming from, you know, which guy in the horn section was playing the wrong note. I could tell you. So I don't know. I don't think you can practice that stuff, but I think I was just born with it personally. I think that's where I'm going with all that. You know, some people have great ears, some people don't. I definitely developed my ears by listening to records all those years and picking stuff off records, you know. I'm so old that I used to put the needle back on the records and have to learn a solo. I couldn't watch it on YouTube like you guys do, which develops your ear. And I do believe that I'm happy that I learned that way. I'd rather learn with my ears and not my eyes, is what I'm trying to say to you. So there's that. And, but I realize we're in a different time now. You know, younger people are learning differently than I learned, and that's cool. They're also playing modeling amps, which is not cool. Okay, what else we got? Yeah, a lot of people are saying things like, you know, that's how I learned too, by listening to records and putting the turntable back. You know, that's true. Is there any other questions worth answering here? Let's see here. Oh, happy to see that Junior again. I thought you'd gotten rid of it. Yeah, that's a different one. That's not the same TV Junior I used like on that 100th anniversary show or 100th episode show. Hey, have you ever asked Ann if she wanted to make a brief appearance on the Homeskoolin show? Do you all actually hang out much backstage? Yeah, we hang out all the time. She's very cool. You know, we go to dinner once in a while and she hangs out. She doesn't come to sound checks because she doesn't have to. But, you know, we hang out a lot and we talk a lot. She's very cool. She's not just one of those people that avoids the band, you know, and we're all close. Write a lot of tunes together and things like that. And she said if I ever wanted to do an interview with her on the show, she would do it. I just haven't done it. I don't know why. But she's a very cool person. I mean, there's lots of great interviews with her on the YouTube you could watch. You'll see how cool she is if you watch some of those. This is getting pretty long. It's going to take me 2 hours to upload this at this point with my shitty internet. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thanks for watching the show, guys. Listen to that First Pretenders record if you don't know it. All right. Have a great day. Uncle Larry signing out.